Okay, so we're going to be focusing on how to write equations of parallel lines in this lesson. So let's start by talking about, well, what are parallel lines? So remember, parallel lines are lines that never intersect. Okay, and how do we know that they never intersect when we look at their equations? Well, they must have the same intercept, or sorry, the same slope. So they have the same slope. And then a different y-intercept. Okay, so again, they're lines that never intersect, and we can tell this by looking at the equation and seeing they have the same slope but different y-intercepts. So let's just talk about how can we identify parallel lines. So if you take a look at A in the first example, we want to look at these three lines A, B, and C. And we can clearly see they have different y-intercepts, which is awesome. So now the question just is, what are the slopes? So if I want to find the slope of A, for example, I can use my slope formula, or I can count rise over run, right? So this is up 1, right 3, so that slope is 1/3, right? The slope of B, if I don't want to count rise over run, what I can do again is my y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and I'll see I get 1/3 again. And then the slope for C, again, you can count or do your slope formula. So I can do 0 minus -2 over 3 minus -2, which is a positive 2 over 5. So when we compare the slopes, we want to see, well, what had the same slopes? Well, A and B did. So we can say, since lines, let me make that a little clearer. Since lines A and B both have a slope of 1/3 and different y-intercepts, they are parallel, right? So that's my explanation. So we're just basically looking at slope, and slope can help us find parallel, okay? So if we take a look at B, and hold on a minute, I forgot to put the second point in there, so let me tell you what that point is. Okay, that should have been and 1, 0. Sorry about that. So with part B, you can do what we did in A and actually graph these points to make the three lines, or just use your slope formula. So again, use your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and then simplify to see what we get. So I'm going to get 2 over 2, which is 1 for A. And then if I look at B, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, it's going to be giving me -4 over -2, which is a positive 2. And then the slope of C, 1 minus 2 over -1 minus 0, gives me, oh, I'm sorry, 1 minus 2. I wrote 1 minus 1. Let's fix that. So 1 minus 2 over -1 minus 0 gives me a -1 over -1, which is positive 1. So looking at this, which are my parallel lines? Again, we're looking at the exact same slopes, right? And because they go through different points, we can be pretty confident they don't have the same y-intercept, but you can graph and see. But if you look here at -1, we're at -2 on A, and -1 is 1. So here for C, so they're clearly different lines, right? So we can say, again, our final conclusion, since lines A and C have the same slope, m equals 1, and different y-intercepts, they are parallel. All right. So go ahead and try 1 and 2 and think about how you're going to identify the slopes and how you're going to determine whether or not these lines are parallel. So if you look at if you look at 2, now you're not given 2 points. So think about your y equals mx plus b. So that's the hint I'm going to leave you with. And let's come back and check your work. So again, check for the slopes and make sure the y-intercepts are different. All right, so go ahead and try that 1 and 2. So go ahead and check your work. So if you look at 1, A and B both have a slope of 2/3, so lines A and B are parallel. And again, your explanations could vary, but you want to have that idea of same slopes, different y-intercepts. So that's why I left that dot, dot, dot there. All right. So if you take a look at number 2, here I converted it all to y equals mx plus b, and then you can see these are your slopes. And none of them are the same, so no lines are parallel. And again, you want to explain that no lines are parallel because, and then use your own words, but basically none of the slopes are the same, right? We're going to go ahead and finish the notes in class talking about how to write equations of the parallel lines using our point-slope form to create slope-intercept form. But please come back to class with questions if you have questions about how can you tell lines are parallel based on slopes. Thanks for listening.